And you might be timer.
Make them
for a
laugh.
while.
Make them
Make
laugh.
them laugh.
I thought, didn't Roy say he was going to do table topics last
Yeah, but he's not here right now, just in case.
Okay.
Who was supposed to be table
I
topics?
thought Roy was going to be.
Oh, Roy? Yeah, if he doesn't get here, then
Well, he emailed me this morning.
let Sarah do it before he doesn't get here.
I call this meeting of the Central Florida Facilitators, Club 9958, to order. Please turn your digital devices to the silent position. If you really want to live dangerously, just turn them all the way off. Thank you all for making it this evening, and welcome back, Sarah, from your vacation. Please welcome to the front of the room our pledge and thought leader, our thought and pledge leader, Miss Susan Morgan. This is a good one.
Okay, that's awesome, thank you.
Or that one's good. That's Steve Jobs, not Steve Jobs. Version guy.
Oh, okay. All right, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here, and your thought of the day is all that is worth doing is what we do for others.
That's Leonard Carroll.
Leonard Carroll. Thank you to John for helping me with that. And if everyone will please rise, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it seems that Charlie hasn't quite made it back up here from downstairs.
You've been president before.
I've been president.
Next ranking is Jonathan.
Yes, it is next ranking.
There's
Okay,
my
so
introduction.
All right, yeah, it's good.
there you go, that's right. Yay!
Are there any announcements on the floor? Any announcements? I have one. In 2 weeks and 2 days, it's the district conference at the Florida Hotel by the Florida Mall. I know many in the room are going. If you're not going, I'd strongly consider it. And I would appreciate your support being there as well. If there's any questions on how to register for that, just get with me at the end of the evening. And you know what? I do have an announcement. Alan, are you joining up tonight officially again?
I would like to. I can't do that yet.
Okay, no problem.
So still.
And he's a guest.
He's a guest.
So
I'll
tell
take
us
it.
how you do Toastmasters and what you hope to do. There's Charlie.
Charlie,
Thank you. I'll
Okay.
take care of that.
the president came
My
to
time from 9 to 11.
The president is at the podium.
lecture.
The
This
lectern,
is
you're
my
right,
second
the
time.
lectern.
Oh
my gosh.
They're not going to give it to you.
That's fine by me.
No, it's the truth. I asked him to do so.
Tonight's Toastmaster could not have selected a better night to be your Toastmaster. With the theme, Make Them Laugh. She was born smiling, and she loves to lift others up with laughter. Laughter is the best medicine. It's her cure for changing attitudes and moods, especially since she is working with students that have had a lot of trauma. Here to make you laugh, working on her Advanced Communicator Silver, please give a warm round of applause to Miss Gloria E.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, we'll go through the business and make sure the agenda is accurate. Let's see, for this, under the speaking, well, under the grammarian, we have Alan, yeah, Alan, okay. And I'll count Maureen, the timer. Cece's not here. So, would anyone like to step up to do the timer?
Can I do timer and vote counter at the same time?
No, you won't.
Sarah's not doing anything.
Oh, Sarah, okay,
Yes.
Sarah will do that, okay. Thank you, Sarah.
All right.
Okay, the vote counter is Susan.
Yep.
Stephen, we have him speak in how long?
5 to 7 minutes, unless I can do an extra minute.
5 to 7, okay. Okay, that's what the manual has, correct?
That's
5
what
to
the manual
7, okay. And then Mark will be speaking 9 to 11, I did
9 to
update
11.
that. Pardon me?
Yes.
9 to 11, okay. And I think I have all the, let's see.
Oops, I gotta turn off my phone.
The general evaluator will be Stephen Morgan. Thank you, Stephen. And Jonathan will evaluate speaker number 2. Is
Correct.
that okay?
Yes.
Okay. You have to laugh because you see that big red purse I have over there? I used to have about 20 pens. But can I find a pen tonight? No. And I don't know if you know, but I am a mentor, so I have a crayon that I'm working with. I thought, oh boy, talk about making somebody laugh. So we're going to talk about humor a little bit. And so I was reading up about humor, where it started, where it originated, and you know, the Greeks are getting credit for it, and the Romans, and you know, all kinds of different ethnic groups. But then I thought about it, I said, no, it started in the cave. It started with Adam and Eve, right? They did things to make each other laugh. So I would like Adam to come up here now so we can demonstrate how the first conversation went. Yeah, you're Adam now. And I am Eve. I mean, just think, they didn't have any words back then. Mimi, Mimi. Baby.
Rib.
Now they know words.
Thank you, Jonathan.
It's the best
Thank you.
idea.
That
Have you taken laughter yoga?
was good. Pardon
Laughter yoga, have you taken that?
me? No.
That's what it's about.
Thank you, Jonathan. So laughter, you know, some people think it's a science, or comedy is a science, but it really isn't. So there are no rules. They consider comedy an art. There are no rules, and it can be very subjective, right? Because sometimes you hear a joke, and sometimes you laugh, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. One thing worth noting is that when analyzing comedy and what is funny is almost like it is only visual out of the corner of your eye, because if you analyze it too much, then all the humor comes out of it and the funniness disappears. So this author wrote this pretty good article. Why do we find things funny? Why does this reaction force us to make this funny sound, laughter? His response, I have no idea. There's no simple answer to why something is funny. Something is funny because it captures a moment, contains an element of simple truth. It is something that we have always known for eternity, and yet are hearing it now out loud for the first time. I think that our need to feel intelligent comes into play a bit in finding things funny. Maybe humor is actually the overwhelming joy of feeling intelligent. Do you ever think about that? Somebody tries to put on their shoes, standing up, and falls over in the process. They look foolish. We therefore feel intelligent, as we are not the ones falling over trying to put on the shoes. We laugh. Someone makes a clever joke, and only a few people get it. If we get the joke, we recognize that the person is having clever and feel clever ourselves as we understood the concept. We laugh. So, is humor partly to do with self-congratulation at being intelligent? Some words to think about. So now I would like to introduce the back table. And first we will have the grammarian, Alan, describe your duties.
The word of the day that's been chosen is sample.
Sample.
I will keep track of those who use the word of the day. Those who have a chance to speak and do not use the word of the day will be fined 25 cents. Guests and members who have not yet given their icebreaker speech will not be fined. Also listen for colorful imagery and exceptional use of vocabulary and grammar. At the end of the meeting, I will report on grammar usage and suggest where I see improvements to be made.
Thank you. Next, we have the auto counter, Maureen.
My job is to keep track of audible crutches such as double clutches, the repetition of a word while the speaker searches for the next thought. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words like and or so. And I will sound a buzzer when any of these infractions are heard. The fine for each infraction is 10 cents. Guests and members who have not yet done their icebreaker will not be buzzed or fined, but I will keep track of their infractions.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we have the timer.
Timer, I'm responsible for monitoring time for each speaker in each meeting segment. I will operate a timing signal indicating each speaker how long he or she has been speaking. For prepared speeches to qualify for voting, speakers must speak not less than 30 seconds under their range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over their range maximum. So the green light gets turned on at range minimum, yellow mid-range, red at maximum. There's no time listed for Steve.
5 to 7.
Well, there it is. Steve 5 to 7.
Oh, yes.
And then 8 for 10. For
No, it was changed, 9 to 9.
9 to 11.
I get an extra minute in case I make people laugh.
No, it's already recorded. Table topics. To qualify, speakers must speak at least 1 minute and no more than 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So the green light's on at a minute, yellow light 1.5 minutes, red light 2 minutes. Then the third section is the evaluations. So to qualify, evaluators speak a minimum of 1 minute, 30 seconds, a maximum of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Green light goes on at 2 minutes, yellow light 2.5 minutes, and red light at 3 minutes. I'm Toastmaster.
Thank you. Now we have Susan Morgan as the vote counter.
As vote counter, I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I will tally the results for award presentations at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up any comments you might have written for the speakers or any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. And I have been sampling the wine, so no telling how good I'll be at this. Thank you, Miss Table Topics, or not Table Topics, Toastmaster.
Thank you. So a little sample of one-liners that I located. When your only tool is a hammer, all problems start looking like nails. 99% of lawyers give the rest a bad name. Artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. The last thing I want to do is insult you, but it is on the list. I don't have a solution, but I do admire the problem. That's a good response. The only substitute for good manners is fast reflexes. And the last one, support bacteria. They're the only culture some people have. So now, to announce prepared speeches. Our first speaker, you sent me your introduction, and I forgot it. I'm sorry.
Make one up.
I know, I didn't mean to say that out loud, I know better. I could pull up email and try to get it, no, I'm not gonna do that. Our next speaker, since coming back to Toastmasters, I was really amazed with this person. He is really magnificent. He has a natural humor and a great speaker. He was Toastmaster last week and did a phenomenal job, just off the cuff. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I apologize for being a little late. That's a slow elevator.
Okay. So our next speaker, working on his, What a Toastmaster I
Says number
am.
4 on the agenda.
Oh, scratch all that. That was comedy, folks. Like, I haven't been a Toastmaster in a long time. All right. Our next speaker, our first speaker is Stephen Block. Stephen's title is Leadership and Destruction. No, Leadership versus Destruction. Speech number 4. With 5 to 7 minutes, he'll be speaking. I present to you Stephen Block.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Put yourself in this scenario, which is similar to events from my high school. Imagine it is 1993. You are finishing up your sophomore year in a New York City public school, and Mayor Giuliani has not yet been elected as mayor. The school is showing signs of leadership from the current mayor. Students do not dispose of their garbage when they're done eating, and the janitorial staff does not clean out the garbage cans. As a result, if you have a later lunch period, the cafeteria is full of garbage. School policy is that you're not supposed to leave the campus during school hours, but you do so anyway. You do so because you have to use the bathroom, and unlike the scene from the movie American Pie, the bathroom is far from clean. If you're lucky enough to find a toilet that is not jammed with textbooks and garbage, vandals have removed the stall doors. Rumor has it that the toilet paper is laced. It is election time, and your classmates want you to campaign for Troy. Troy is the cool kid. He cuts class so he can get high on the campus courtyard. He's so awesome, he can damage school property in broad daylight. Everybody laughs when he bullies around the weaker students and faculty, including sweet Miss Jacobs, who teaches English. A smaller group of George supporters are handing out cookies and cupcakes. George is a different type of student. Straight A's, he tutored you in math freshman year when you really needed the help. He is active in multiple student activity groups. He also volunteers his time on weekends at the local homeless shelter. Since this is a popularity contest, it appears that the winner is going to be Troy. And Troy will probably never show up for a single student council meeting. It is unknown to you that Troy got into a confrontation with a Second Amendment advocate and will no longer be assaulting you on the subway. Switch to the real world and modern day. Heavy.com did research into the criminal background of a famous drug dealer. This drug dealer, a sample of his crimes included marijuana possession. However, he also had more serious offenses such as drug trafficking, assault, and burglary. Ladies and gentlemen, this convict is the fine citizen whom angry rioters in Baltimore have been terrorizing their city over. A lot of peaceful protests have been going on, and a lot of protesters complain that their activity is not covered by the media, while the violent looting and vandalism is. This is because the peaceful protesters have missed out on valuable opportunities to outweigh all the damage that was done by their counterparts. A sample of a peaceful protest might include blocking traffic, but do you really expect to convince someone to join your cause by making them late from work? Instead, they could have handed out bottles of water or cupcakes and cookies. They could have organized crews to patch the potholes in the street and pick up trash from the litter-filled streets. They could have beautified their underserved neighborhood by planting flowers in front of the miles and miles of boarded-up row houses. They could have responded to the Senior Citizen Center being burned with an outpouring of support for the elderly. They could have engaged in all sorts of food drives, blood drives, and toy drives, and social media frenzies, such as the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Instead, they have gone after 6 courageous police officers who put their lives on the line every day for our safety and our security. The stories of Troy and Freddie Gray are true tragedies, which are compounded by the fact that people chose a path of destruction over leadership. Don't get me wrong, if an officer commits a crime, he should be held accountable, but not by a mob mentality. We must not get complacent and forget about the danger of people like Freddie Gray and Michael Brown. I encourage, turning them into heroes sends the wrong message to everyone. And I encourage a more positive message of crime does not pay. A message of crime does not pay could be sent by dropping charges against the officers and honoring them as heroes. For those of you on the other side of the debate, I hear your arguments, I see the merits of your point, and I admire your conviction. The one thing I do ask of you is to pursue a path that makes the world a better place. In honor of George and to garner support for you to vote for my speech as the best speech tonight, I have brought cupcakes and cookies. Thank you for that, Toastmaster.
Thank you. Could I have 1 minute on the clock, please? Sarah? This is an opportunity for me to give feedback to Mr. Mr. Stephen Block. Mr. Stephen Block. No, we just say your name. Who loves to influence us.
All of them finished. Top rather than top.
You can tell.
Right to me.
I have to walk around to get them.
Like a magnet.
Okay, thank you. Some sample one-liners about life. Time doesn't exist, clocks exist. My mind's made up, don't confuse me with the facts.
Yeah.
Talk is cheap until you hire a lawyer. Take my advice, I'm not using it. I got lost in thoughts. It was an unfamiliar territory. Sure, I'd like to help you out. Now, which way did you come in? Oh, that was funny. I started with nothing and I still have most of it. Ever stop to think and forget to start again? Out of my mind, back in 5 minutes. The problem with troubleshooting is that trouble shoots back. If you are here, who's running hell? If nothing was learned, nothing was taught. Very, very funny, Scotty. Now beam down my clothes. And I really like this one. A dog has an owner, a cat has a staff. All you cat lovers. Our next speaker believes himself to be a direct descendant of the Choctaw Indian tribe. Because of his parents, and because of this, his parents enrolled him in Indian Guides instead of Boy Scouts. There he shed his white man's name of Mark and adopted his Choctaw name of Red Squirrel. So we have a new Toastmaster, Red Squirrel, tonight. Tonight, to tell his amazing story of embracing his tribal culture, please welcome Red Squirrel.
In Native American folklore, there is a belief in something called the kindred animal spirits. It is an animal spirit that watches over us. And in our time of need, it descends from the sky, becomes one with us, and helps us get out of whatever danger or predicament we're in. Madam Toastmaster, members, and guests, my heritage in the Choctaw has allowed me to come tonight and share with you my first-hand experience in this Native American folklore. Many moons ago, my father sat me down on our porch and talked to me about our ancestors. And he said, because of our Choctaw bloodline, we are able to summon our kindred animal spirits when we need them to protect us. And then he proceeded to tell me about my grandfather. He said, when your grandfather was young, he was playing outside with some of his friends, and he accidentally wandered off and found himself alone in the woods. There he encountered a deadly rattlesnake, coiled and ready to strike. My grandfather knew that he couldn't get out of the way of the rattlesnake, so he decided to look to the sky and open his arms and summon his kindred animal spirit. And it was a great eagle, and it descended from the sky, consumed his body, and using his hands like the mighty talons of an eagle, he was able to grab the rattlesnake and squeeze the life out of it. It was a great victory. When my dad finished that story, he told me about a story or an event that happened to him when he was young. As my dad recalls, he was hiking with his friends one day when he too accidentally wandered off and found himself alone in the woods. There he saw a hungry wolf ready to pounce on him. Knowing that he couldn't outrun the wolf, he decided he would look to the sky and summon his kindred animal spirit. And so he did. And it was a mighty jaguar. And the jaguar descended from the sky, consumed his body, and became one with him. And using the agility and strength of the jaguar, he was able to fight and kill the wolf. It was another great victory. When my dad got done telling me that, he said, Mark, someday you too will encounter a situation like this. And you will need to summon your kindred animal spirit. And it will descend from the sky and lead you to great victory. And I said, Dad, when that day comes, I'm going to choose a lion, because I love lions. He said, Mark, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to choose your animal spirit. Your animal spirit chooses you. And you must remember these things, because they're important. You can only summon your kindred animal spirit in a life or death situation. And when you summon your kindred animal spirit, and it makes itself known to you, you can't change it. It's yours forever and will be with you until the end of time. Its characteristics and its traits will be instilled with you for your remaining days. As I grew up, I always wondered what my kindred animal spirit was going to be, but I never had a need to call it, so I didn't know. I was hoping it would be something cool, perhaps a lion or a hawk, or even an eagle or a jaguar, but I had no clue. Eventually, I thought that day would never come. But then, lo and behold, about a year ago, that day did come. I was camping in the Rockies with my wife and daughter. And while they were tending to the campsite and preparing the tent, I accidentally wandered off while looking for firewood and found myself alone in the wilderness. I heard a twig snap behind me. And when I turned, I saw the biggest, most ferocious grizzly bear that you would ever see. And we just stared at each other for a second. Him with the black, cold, dead eyes, and me because I didn't know what to do. So we just stood there for a couple of seconds and looked at each other. It was exactly like a Mexican standoff, except for the fact that there was only two of us. Neither of us were Mexican, and one of us was a bear. But still, there we were. I thought I was going to die. All hope seemed lost. But then my grandfather's voice came to me through the wind. And he said, Mark, now is the time to summon your kindred animal spirit. And let it come down from the sky and consume your body and lead you to great victory. And I thought, hell yes! This is exactly what I need right now. I I thought, what else could happen? Nothing else could go wrong. It couldn't possibly get any worse, because here I was, right next to the most ravenous, biggest bear in the world. So I looked to the sky, and I opened my arms, and I summoned my animal spirit. And miraculously, the clouds in the sky started to move and shift and join and make a shape. It was as if Mother Nature herself was playing Tetris. And for the first time, I was able to see my kindred animal spirit.
Was it an eagle?
No, it was not an eagle. Although an eagle would have been cool, because if it was an eagle, it would have came down and consumed my body, and I would have been able to fly above the bear and attack it from the sky. No, it was not an eagle.
Was it a jaguar?
No, it was not a jaguar. Although a jaguar would have been equally as cool. Because if it was a jaguar, it would have came down and became one with my body, and I could have used its strength and agility to defeat the grizzly bear. No, it was neither of those. My kindred animal spirit that day, the animal that chose at that particular time to come down and consume my body in front of the grizzly bear, was a salmon. That's right. There I was, 5 feet from the most ravenous, hungriest grizzly bear in the world. And in 10 seconds, I was gonna smell like fish. At that point, I thought, you know what? Things actually did just get worse. And as my spirit started to descend from the sky, I decided I didn't want it anymore. So I said, go back! I don't want you anymore! I don't even think you're technically an animal. But it was too late. My kindred salmon descended from the sky. It took over my body, and we became as one. And that bear tore into me like a fat man at a buffet. I remember waking up in the hospital 3 days later. My wife and daughter were by my side. And I asked my wife what had happened. And she said, Mark, it was the craziest thing. There we were in the camp, preparing the tent, when all of a sudden we heard this woman screaming at the top of her lungs. So we ran to help. But when we got there, all we saw was you, passed out with your arm inside the mouth of a dead grizzly bear. And I said, what? That's crazy. I don't even remember that. How did that happen? I thought, I'll call my dad. He'll know. So I called my dad. I said, Dad, guess what? He said, what? I said, it happened. He said, what happened? I said, oh, we killed an animal spirit. I was out camping. There was a grizzly bear in the clouds and a fish. I was a fish and I killed the bear. But Dad, how can a fish kill a bear? There was a pause, and then he said, Mark, what kind of fish were you? And I said, I was a salmon. And he said, Mark, you have achieved the most revered and most feared animal spirit in the universe. Son, you don't have an ordinary salmon. You have the great tainted salmon. I said, what? He said, the great tainted salmon, a fish so polluted and so yucky that just one sample of it would drop the biggest beast instantly to its death. And I thought, whoa, that is the coolest thing. So I embraced my kindred animal spirit, the great tainted salmon. And just like my father, when he summoned his animal spirit, spent his remaining days with the traits and characteristics of his jaguar, going on to win numerous competitions in track and field. And just like his father before him, when he summoned his animal spirit, spent his remaining days with eagle-eyed, perfect 20/20 vision, I too inherited the characteristics and traits of my kindred animal spirit. And I will spend my remaining days smelling like contaminated pond water and having sex once a year. Adam Toastmasters.
Thank you. Could we have 1 minute on the clock, please, for feedback for Mark's speech?
And to air out the room now.
Yeah, and to air out the room. wondering what that smell was.
That's me. Now you know my cats are following me everywhere we go.
At least you can swim?
Yeah.
I thought that had been
I'll
washed
show you.
away.
Yeah.
So I'll finish with a sample of smart one-liners. Which one of these is the non-smoking lifeboat? Treat each day as your last. One day you will be right. The early bird may get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. If I want your opinion, I'll ask you to fill out the necessary forms. Despite the cost of living, haven't you noticed how popular it remains? All power corrupts. Absolute power is pretty neat though. Always remember you're unique, just like everyone else. Confession is good for the soul, but bad for your career. A bartender is just a pharmacist with a limited inventory. A day for a firm decision, or is it? And I'll leave you with this. If at first you don't succeed, redefine success.
Ah, yes.
So can we have a timer's report, please?
Yes. The first speaker was Stephen, and he spoke for 5 minutes and 49 seconds and qualifies. Mark's speech went 9 minutes and 51 seconds, so he also qualifies, both qualify.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, now they both qualify, so we will vote for the best speaker. If you can take out your little form, and Sarah, you can turn the green light off. Something interesting that I found while doing my research on comedy, that there are all different types of comedy, including slapstick, parody, spoof, satire, irony, sarcasm, farce, black comedy, surrealism, and timing. Basic techniques, misunderstanding, pun and wordplay. So here's an example of pun and wordplay. My dog has no nose. How does he smell? Awful. That's pun and wordplay. Misunderstanding. When I nod my head, you hit it. Joe nods. Fred hits Joe over the head with a hammer. That's misunderstanding. Mock epic with traversity. Double entendre. Typical British saucy postcard humor and stereotypes. So interesting. Now at this time, I would like to introduce our table topics master. Susan? You're the table topics
No.
master?
Roy.
Oh,
Roy.
you are, okay. I'm sorry, your name again?
Roy.
Roy, okay. Ah, your name's on here, okay. I know, what a Toastmaster, right?
Except for that.
A Toastmaster with a memory about that big. Our table topics master loves the theme for today, which is make you laugh, and he's ready with his questions. I present to you Roy Whitty.
All right, who's ready to have some fun up in here? The purpose of Table Topics Master is for you to think on your feet. I'm going to be throwing fastballs, curveballs, and your job is to take a swing. And as long as you give it a shot, you don't sit down after about 20 seconds like someone in here, you're at least going to get a foul ball. The time range for you to qualify, you have to speak for at least 1 minute and not longer than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So let's get started. I do have some props for today to kind of get us going here. You guys want to pass that around? Kind of. Most of you guys might have seen this before. This is what I like to refer to as awkward family photos. I don't really find a whole lot of things funny, but when I flip through this website and I look for these things, I just built out laughing. I can't help it. These things are just hilarious. So, that said, our first question, Maureen, why don't you go ahead and paint us a picture about the funniest or most awkward photo you've ever been a part of?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm trying to remember, but it's gotta be 2 years ago when we had gone to Jamaica on vacation. We went to Functionary Reports. It was a group of us, and myself and my sister decided that we wanted to stand on top of the guys, you know, like I don't know what you call them. So we decided to do that. Of course, seeing that I was the most athletic one and, you know, whatever, I decided to go first. I went up, climbed, went on top. Then my sister, she's really tall and skinny. So she tried to do the same thing, you know, standing up on top of the guy's shoulder. While she was doing that, the unthinkable, she kind of slipped. One of the guys kind of, you know, didn't get his balance, and she almost fell. So just imagine with that picture, it was really, you know, funny afterwards. Look at the picture, how crooked it all looked, and her trying, you know, falling down. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Now, like I said, I'm not a huge comedy guy, I'm not a huge stand-up guy, but some of my favorites include Bill Maher and Chris Rock, who just tend to be straight up nasty and in your face with their sense of humor. They always get me to laugh out loud. Stephen Morgan, tell us about your favorite comedian or your favorite comedy show, and why.
Mr. Table Topics Master, I do love listening to Chris Rock. He does not mince any of the words and makes it clear that most of you all are assholes. But he's just a little bit worse most of the time. The comedians that I've enjoyed listening to are the ones that will be able to take what can be current, put things into a perspective, but then be able to twist them around. Robin Williams was a brilliant one at that, but he also was this ridiculously hyper personality, especially once he got moving. And it's entertaining to watch any of his shows as well. Of late, I do find it a shame that Colbert has left his fun little position on his show where he was playing the satirical conservative talk show host. It was amusing in the sense because he was able, in that kind of position, to throw out the hypocrisy, mostly from the conservative side, sometimes from the liberal side. The amusing part is if you ever watch people of both persuasions, they'll sit there and watch the show. Anyone with the liberal side is looking at it and going, yeah, he's making fun of everything. The absurdity is the fun of it. A lot of the people on the conservative side are sitting there going, I agree with exactly what everything he's saying. He's perfectly right. And it seems to just kind of go over the head most of the time. And that's actually the amusing part about satire, because if you actually watch satire, and it's hard to do it right, because if you do satire right, the people you're mocking often don't get it. Because the simple fact is, to them you look like you're the same. It's the people who are different from them that get to look at it and go, yeah, they're taking it over the top to the point of they've gone to absurdity. That's what I find to be most amusing in those cases. So take many choices, If you want to turn around, I'd still love to see Chris Rock do a few more things, and he actually is got a few more things in the pipeline. So perhaps he'll come up in here, probably give a much better table topic answer than my little pathetic one as it is. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. So just being a kid and growing up, it's always a good source for laughs. Kids are just so innocent and just humorous in the things that they do. I was thinking back to when I was a kid, and the thing that came to my mind was when I played football. I was a quarterback. In my first year playing organized football, my first game out there, and I walk up to the line of scrimmage. For those of you familiar with football, you're supposed to go under the center. I line up under the guard. And the guard's probably like, what the hell's going on back there? So I go through my cadence and everything, and he finally stands up and says, dude, you need to get the ball from the center. So it was an interesting experience for those of you who are familiar with football. Definitely very embarrassing for me in front of my parents and family and everybody because they were watching the game. Fortunately, it was Little League, not that big of a deal, and I finally got that corrected before I got in high school. Thank goodness. So, Sarah, tell me a funny or embarrassing story about yourself as a child growing up.
Funny story about myself. I can't think of one offhand of when I was small, but I do have a lot about my kids because they're more recent. And they're never funny at the time because as a parent, you're just completely embarrassed. And so the most recent one, I was in Publix and I was ordering a birthday cake for my daughter who was turning 5. She's in the shopping cart, you know, in her little, the seat still, and my son's just like running around, just trying to like make sure he's contained, and I'm going through, and it's a princess one, of course, and the lady at the bakery was really nice, and she was, I've seen her before, she's a fantastic baker, so she was being very patient, and my daughter Hannah's just taking it all in, she's looking around, and she's like, Mommy, Mommy! And I was like, you know, which one would you like? Would you like Cinderella? Would you like Elsa? Would you like, I'm thinking, what does she pick one, right? Why does that woman have a beard? Oh my God. I mean, this lady's right there, and when there's funny, and there was other people right behind me who were just laughing. And it clearly wasn't funny for the lady that's got the beard, right? But I am just waiting, because sometimes the person will, in that moment, make it not funny, but they'll cover it up, and that just did not happen, and she wants an answer. Did you hear me? Why does that woman have a... And I said, we're going to have Cinderella, and we'll take a big sheet of Cinderella, and we'll be back in a week, and we'll pick it up. And I ran as fast as I just didn't know what to do. I mean, she was not going to let it go, and she was very innocent and had no idea. This was not funny. And she pulls one of these things every single week. But looking back, it probably was quite funny, because it just came out of nowhere, and I had nothing. But that's my latest funny story.
That's very funny. Thank you, Sarah. Now, while we try to do our best to avoid embarrassing situations in the workplace, over the course of a career, time is going to get you. At some point, it's going to happen. So about 5 years ago, new clients were visiting the office, and a colleague of mine gave me the opportunity to meet these new clients. So I get up, introduce myself, and we're talking. And a couple minutes later, they stroll off, and my coworker turns around through my window and goes like this. And I was like, oh, what is that? And I look down, and my zipper is down. So inevitably, it's going to happen. 10, 20, 30 years in a career, at some point, it's going to happen. So Cece, let's hear a good story or funny story about something that happened to you or a colleague at the workplace.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As I can recall, it wasn't not too long ago, my daughter and I, well, actually she still lives with me. One day, it was on the weekend, I drove her vehicle, and I placed my purse in her car. That was on a Sunday night, and come Monday morning, we were both in a rush leaving to get to work. I inadvertently forgot my purse in her car. Since she had left before I did, and I was just about to leave, I just realized that I had left my purse with everything, to include except for my keys, include my makeup. You know, I can't go anywhere without my makeup, as ladies. When I got to work, I actually called her on my way and asked her to leave my purse in the garbage can in one of the ladies' bathrooms. You would think this was the most stupid thing to do. That was the only way I could have. I was thinking, and she needed to leave to get to work on time herself. The strategy was to leave it under the garbage bag inside the garbage can in the ladies' room. No one else goes there. Who would go there in the morning? The only time frame that you would think anybody except for the cleaning lady would go there, and in case they have something, but normally it would be in the evening, and that's what I expect. At any rate, when I got to work, the first thing I did was to go to the garbage can, and my purse was not there. This was the most embarrassing thing, because something that stupid I would not expect to email administration that I'm missing my purse. I thought it was pretty funny. Frantically called her, trying to email her, text her, where is my purse? Where is my purse? Mom, you told me to put it in the garbage can, and I did. What happened was that I forgot to tell her that I had told her that the purse was under the plastic bag inside the garbage. And that's when I realized I had already emailed the administration that I had forgotten, someone had stolen my purse, and I was just so embarrassed to let her know that, yeah, I did find it, and I forgot where it was. So this was, as I recall, it was embarrassing. Not only embarrassing, but funny as well. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Cece, and I've got one more quick one. I've got to give this guy an opportunity to redeem himself, and then we'll call it a night for table topics. Several years ago, I saw improv live and in person. It's something I've always wanted to try out. It's scary on one hand, but exciting on the other. So the next best thing I could think of is to live vicariously through Jonathan. So let's give this a shot. Tell me a funny story and/or act out a scene involving your first time buying contraceptives.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and I will answer that question momentarily, but first, in typical table topics fashion, Maureen got the question I wanted. I'm moving out of my house with potentially my fourth wife, and I was selling some things on Craigslist. And I won't lie, I walk around my house at night naked, and one of the items that I had for sale is a television set. And of course, when I took the picture of the television set, I stood right in front of the television set and took the picture. And since I'm always doing things at 150 miles an hour, I paid no attention to the photograph, and I placed the ad on Craigslist with the image. The next day, I go to Craigslist to change the price, and the image is staring right back at me. I was a little more lucid at this moment after 7 cups of coffee. And staring right back at me was myself. And now to the second question. I was 15 years old, and I'd probably watched the movies that I should have been watching, and I decided it's time for me to start dating. And I figured out, using some sleuthing skills, who the most promiscuous girl was in the school. And I asked her out on a date. And it came time, after approximately 10 to 12 dates, that might possibly happen. And as I knew the history, my very first trip to buy prophylactics was at the local Walgreens. Actually, I take that back, it was Eckerd's. Does everybody still remember Eckerd's? Gosh, that was some memories. And I wasn't embarrassed in the least bit. Now, of course, if you look down at my shoes, they are size 13s. And it's not a myth, it's the truth. So I had no problem, no embarrassment. My first process.
Too much information.
That's not the story I was expecting, but we'll go with that.
Exactly, what were you expecting given the question?
That'll do it. Thanks everyone for your participation.
Thank you, that was very entertaining.
Redemption.
Redemption, I don't think so.
You're not getting the easy one, though.
Madam Timer, can we please have the timer's report and turn the red light off? Thank you.
Again?
Again,
Thank you. Okay, so here's all the times. Maureen talked about funniest photo, 1 minute and 15 seconds, qualifies. Stephen Morgan, a favorite comedian, 2 minutes, 11 seconds. Myself talked about funny kid moment, 2 minutes. Cece talked about her embarrassing purse, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Jonathan, Craigslist and Contraceptives, for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So everyone qualifies.
Oh, good, okay. So at this time, pull out your little paper so that you can vote for the best table topics speaker. And Miss Susan will come by to pick them up. So at this time, I would like to introduce our general evaluator. I've never heard a better smooth-talking person than our general evaluator. He has participated in many contests. I've known him for a long time, and I truly appreciate his input. I present to you Stephen Morgan.
thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Are we done yet? Oh, no, I guess I gotta do my part too. As general evaluator and get our feedback moving along. Hope you've had a good chance to laugh a bit, and hopefully there'll be a few more opportunities before we're done. Some of them may be at my expense, but if there are, I guarantee you some will be at yours as well. Therefore, to give the feedback to our prepared speakers, we have our formal evaluations, and the evaluators will be presenting them, beginning with our first evaluator tonight, who is honored to be able to evaluate the first speaker tonight. It's a good thing we do it first and first, because if we did first doing second, second doing first, we get really confused. The privilege of being able to give constructive criticism or praise or both is very rewarding. And not only does the evaluation help the speaker, but it also helps the evaluator improve his own speaking abilities. So please help me welcome Charlie Bombalier in evaluating Stephen Black.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, especially Stephen. Your title, Leadership and Destruction, was very appropriate for this speech. You gave us a very defined description of destruction with Troy, and a very great sample with George as a student, a tutor, and the good things that a good leadership should have. You lost me a little bit going from a student leadership role to wanted to be voted as the leader of the school into going into Ferguson. It was, I just didn't catch it if you were trying to do it in could be me. But then you came back because you really did have a clear definition of what you were trying to convey to us. That it was basically voting is come down to almost a popularity contest in all politics, including school and government. You gave us a clear sample of leadership and instruction, but then you tried to bribe us with cookies at the end. Here's a couple of things that may help you on your next speech. You walked up to the lectern and you started speaking without shaking hands, and before she even left, she was right here when you started speaking. So try to remember to come back here, shake the Toastmaster's hand, and wait until she's seated before you start speaking. The other thing, well, I did mention already, there was two. Not shaking hands and you started your speech. And the third one is that I really only noticed one real pause. You could have paused a couple extra times to let us grab what you were just saying. But here are some of the things that you did excel at. The speech topic was appropriate for this speech. It was very well done. Your voice was very clear. You gave everyone in the room your eyes. So that was, you paid attention to everyone in this room and you didn't skip anyone. You used proper grammar and pronunciation was excellent. Your vivid description, words created a mental image especially about Troy and George, the good versus the bad. I think really this was an excellent speech for you. You did a great job. And I'm waiting for my treats because I don't see Mr. Gentleman.
Here they come.
I'll have to ad-lib a bit because the introduction I was given was already been used for, at least in part, the invocation and pledge. So here to assist the red squirrel with helping his speech become the best version of himself, or at least a better version of the tainted salmon, please welcome Mr. Orange Man John Boehner Dunn.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, in the spirit of going from good and turning the page to great, I'm going to take the next 2 to 3 minutes and share with Mark some ideas on structure, content, and delivery. Mark, I love you as a speaker, and I love how you use that amazing voice to start us out with the simple line of, in ancient folklore, I have to admit, I was hanging on your every word, and I was dying to know with your sense of humor where you were going to go with it next. And where Mark went with it next, something I absolutely love in all speeches. Mark gave us the character of his grandfather, he gave us the character of his father, and then he gave us the character of himself, all with stories. And I learned that Mark wanted to be a lion. It was a wonderful job of filling in that body. And then Mark, your clothes, it didn't stink. And I hope that we get to see you speak again more than once a year. He left us laughing, and this was an after-dinner speech. And after eating a bunch of these cupcakes from Steve, I needed to be woke up. I needed to be aroused. However, just a thought, I do like best when people start with stories, and you had a lot of great ones. Just a ponderance. Leading into content. Mark had wonderful, humorous involvement of the audience. I've watched a lot of competitions recently, and you did that very well. A seasoned competitor. It was a great after-dinner speech. You had a lot of humor, once again, bringing back the cupcakes. A lot of humor after dinner. People are tired. People are checking out. Wonderful job on that. And then, something else that I love that Mark does, that I try to do myself. A lot of times when people get up to the front of the room, they think they need to sound smarter than everyone. One of the greatest presenters of all time was Steve Jobs. He never wrote his speeches at over a high school level. So great use of nice, simple language. A little bit of wisdom, though. You had a lot of great imagery in your speech. When you got to the part about the Rockies, though, you kind of zoomed into that. Probably everyone in here can imagine the Rockies, but could have had some great imagery there. And then rounding out the final tips with delivery, Mark had a great appearance. He was wearing a suit, or a dress shirt and a tie, wonderful appearance. Your vocal variety is always excellent. You didn't disappoint any of us. And another thing, you started out at like 70%, you stayed on purpose, and you built to 100%, and the laughter gradually inclined. I thought that was fantastic. The one tip in that area, a deadly rattlesnake, a hungry grizzly bear. You kind of had that same humorous tone. Just work on that next time. Mark, embrace these tips, and you will stay in the spirit of greatness. He has great pauses too. Not 7th place, Mr. General Evaluator.
Now that we've had a sampling of a couple of evaluations from our experienced evaluators, Madam Timer, can we have a timer's report on their evaluations?
Charlie spoke for 3 minutes, 11 seconds, and Jonathan 3:20, so both are fine.
Very well, thank y'all. Take your best evaluator slip from your tear-off sheets there. Cast your vote for either Charlie or Jonathan. Susan is coming around with the bucket to take your votes, and if you have any other comments that you have written down for speakers or other functionaries, drop them in her bucket as well. As she's going around, let's get the reports from our other functionaries. Maureen, as a counter, what have you counted for us tonight?
I can tell you, I must not have been listening very well, or everybody went so well, I didn't have much today. Gloria, you had 1, which is a great word, you so. Stephen, you had nothing. Mark, you were perfect. Stephen, I had 2 for you. Sarah, Cece, Charlie, everybody else was good, nothing. That's it, thank you.
And our grammarian this evening, Alan.
I heard the word of the day from Charlie, Susan, both Steves, and that's about it. For colorful or, I guess, good or bad use of grammar, however you want to look at it. I really enjoyed what you said about, Chris Rock straight up. Most of you are all assholes. That's
Chris Rock.
Yeah, it really is. And, Stephen, I thought you did a great job. You said as part of your speech that you're going to bribe us with the cookies and the cupcakes, and then you delivered. So I thought that was pretty colorful. And Mark, you've taught us about summoning our kindred animal spirit. I thought that was good. Sarah, you gave us that story about your daughter. And John, it's not a myth, it's the truth. We made a reference as far as length of feet and length of possibly something else.
And then as general evaluator, I am to give an evaluation of the meeting in general, and particularly the evaluators especially. For the evaluations themselves, Charlie, brilliant put structure for the evaluation in that you managed to put the strong points at the beginning and at the end, and you filtered in suggestions in between the middle. That structure was beautifully done. Jonathan, your trope is continuing to work strongly for you since you take the same structure each way through. Not sure how that'll do at contest level because I've seen some people who just hate it when it's always the same way. But if it's working, it's working. You've got a lot of good information in there. Please put the positive thing at the very end. You were still throwing in tidbits for suggestions at the end. Great enthusiasm. It is nice for us to know that you were aroused by Mark's speech. I'm sure Mark is very appreciative.
What size
I only get it once a year, so.
We had a funny time with lots of jokes and laughter coming, the great one-liners that were being provided to us. Thank you, Gloria. What might have been helpful, though, if we're looking at the agenda more than just one line at a time. The most notable things that popped up there was, although you did give us the corrections to the agenda, since you corrected the speeches before we corrected who the timer was, our timer wasn't aware of the changes that had already been announced. Looking ahead is sometimes helpful. That was a minor thing, but something I noticed as we were going through. It would have also been helpful on the agenda, noting that the actual objectives of the projects, if they're not on the agenda, or at least have the evaluators, since they should have the manual in front of them, be able to announce them. Number 4 in the CC manual, we're very familiar with. Most of us who've been around a while will know which project that is. But number 5 in the entertaining speaker manual, I didn't even realize was the after dinner speech until the evaluation. That definitely changed the flavor of the speech, and I'm not sure what would have happened if I'd been eating dinner and then realized tainted salmon was the smell going through the room. You handled the missing intro very well. I've done that enough times to know how difficult that can be, and annoying and embarrassing, and we had plenty of embarrassing moments coming out here tonight. Oh, Jonathan, the evaluation. And I loved how you were hanging and dying, too. I had written those down. I was like, apparently he was killing you. After that, we need to get a few more guests coming in here and a few more members joining up. I know it's been a lull. My other club's been seeing a lull as well. Hopefully things start picking up, because we have a banquet to do in just over a month and new officers that need to take over soon as well. Not my job as general evaluator, but something that we should be starting to get hopefully more involved as we move along. That's why I shall ask our president to come forward and take care of his job at this point, Mr. Tomley.
I'd like to take a second and ask our guest for your name and tell us how.
My name's Michael Ward, it's spelled M-O-H-R. I spelled the name right, please. I'm a past member of the Pottstown, Pennsylvania JCs. I was president, vice president, secretary, and also a member of the Pottstown, Pennsylvania Toastmasters for about 10 years.
Oh,
I'm
excellent.
president here at Rosin Bay. Due to unfortunately, I guess diagnosed with Parkinson's about 3 years ago, so I ended up here. And I meant to come up here before and just kind of got around to it, so it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. I need to take a minute and talk about next. You have them?
No, I
Most
didn't.
improved.
Most improved.
Oh, please, I couldn't read it a little far for
Sorry.
my
Sorry.
85-year-old eyes. Can you please vote for the most improved Toastmaster for tonight? As we speak. For next week's agenda, so far, I have as speakers Gloria, Cece, and Jonathan Dunn. I have an evaluator, Sarah. Does anyone, and I have supervisor for elections, Mark, our counter, Alan, grammarian, Maureen. Gail will not be here, and Tony just came back last night, so I'm sure she'll be here next week. She visited Netherlands, so she had a blast. So what I'm going to need is anyone that hasn't signed up for a role here for evaluators. Oh, I'm going to be the table topics Toastmaster also next week, equipment. So all I have right now is Sarah. So if I don't have it, Stephen, be an evaluator, thank you.
I can do a functionary of some sort, or table topics. Charlie's doing it.
But you want to be an evaluator, or I'll switch with you and be, you know, if you want to do table topics, I'll do an evaluator. Whichever you're more comfortable
I'll do
with.
table topics.
Okay, I'll be evaluator.
Who's gonna be Toastmaster?
And that's what we need. That's the last one. Mark, you know, you really need to do.
Again?
This was last week.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Okay. Who can I get to do Toastmaster? Sir, young men? Would you like to try it?
I guess I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to do it yet? I've only done one speech.
That's all
You've
right.
been a member long enough in the past. You've seen.
Am I getting grandfather?
You can do it.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
All right, thank you, Roy. Okay, next on the agenda, as Stephen pointed out, please start thinking, because next week, we're gonna start asking for people to volunteer to be an officer. So, I'm gonna ask for names next week. We're gonna need volunteers, Roy, Gloria, Mark, you know, the good people. Okay, and I can't read my own writing, so I have to put my glasses. Has anyone done any more ambassadors trips to any Toastmasters? Nope. Jonathan, you've done one or two, haven't you? Okay. Gloria, we're gonna need to get together and do, we'll do
Yeah.
ambassadors, okay?
Yeah, sure.
It's Miss Morgan, do you have, or Mrs. Morgan, do you
I
have?
am almost finished.
Almost,
I'm just
okay.
writing in
Is there
there.
any new news to be brought up? Yes, sir.
If you haven't got other plans or time available over the weekend, my son's going to be on the stage as lead for Shrek, the Climate River Players.
Wow.
Take the opportunity to go see it, see him running, dancing around in his big suit and singing as well.
When is it again?
Their run is Friday night, Saturday night, and a Sunday matinee.
Great, thank you.
Princess Theater down in Sanford.
Yep.
Yes, Gloria.
Tonight I had the privilege of teaching 6 foster boys dining skills. And they were so good. And so the treat is, next week I'm going to take them out to dinner. And this is in Brevard. I don't know anything there. I told them to select something like an Olive Garden. So what I would like to ask the members is if you have, because you guys look so nice, the 2 of you, I mean really the 3 of you, everybody that spoke. If you have any long sleeve shirts, you know, hues, whatever, just wash them if you don't mind. And then a tie. I would like to take donations anytime, because I would love to see these guys dress up, have a tie on, just to give them a vision of what it might be like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So if I could ask that, or you can clean out your husband's.
So you want us to donate a dress shirt and a tie?
Yeah, I mean whatever you have. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. So
I have something to give you.
yes. I mean, use would be good. You guys, oh, thank you.
Give me some.
I'm trying to give me money too. But anyway, yeah, if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. And I know the boys would really appreciate that too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. I know that this is not in the agenda tonight, but I have to bring out a point. I had the unexpected opportunity today to meet a very special woman. And I don't know her from, I never even heard her name until last week. It was given to me by Pastor Fidel. from Bridge of Orlando, which is a, what would you call it?
Work release.
A work release for prisoners that are
felons.
ready to hit the road.
Felons getting ready to be released. Yeah.
Right. And she had participated there. So he gave me her number and says, you may want to call this later and talk to her. Has anybody here ever heard of the incident that's still under investigation by the state of Florida of White House boys in Marianna, Florida, where it was a statement?
Yeah, they're finding bodies. So.
Yeah, they found so far 30-some bodies, and now they're starting to dig in Okeechobee because they had a sister school there.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I met her today for lunch, and her father was in Marianna, Florida, as one of the kids. And the horror stories that she told me and what's really going on behind the scenes was absolutely, I don't even have a word how to describe that, but it just got to the core of my being because it was such an incredible episode of events. He is in jail to this day as a serial killer, but he was protecting his brothers, and 2 of his brothers were actually sent to the same school by the state. One for breaking a glass in a car, one for going for a joyride in a stolen car, and another one for doing something on Edgewater Drive, and I forget, it was nothing really horrendous to be sent to one of these schools where they tortured and killed kids. So to make a long story short, we traded names and phone numbers and information, and she's gonna try to get me with other people that she knows from that school so that I can get more information. But it was really exciting and very chilling at the same time. And it was just, I was in awe of this lady. How she still sees him every other week in jail, and she has to go through the whole deal, search and all this, and he's dying. He's actually in his deathbed. And what was really sad was, because it is a jail right outside Gainesville, the horrendous condition that they treat these prisoners that are dying. And there's a big investigation going on this, but they're delaying any kind of findings because they're all 68, 69 years old, so they're just waiting for them to just die so they can close the case. But she's very smart and she's not letting up on it. So it's just a different little note that I wanted to share with you because it was really incredible. On a good note now, let's do the awards. The Tim Chastain Award, everybody knows what it is here. We don't have any since you've been the Toastmaster. Oh, Tim Chastain Award in this club is for a Toastmasters that did above the Call of Duty. And boy, I hate to be coerced into doing things, but I tried to find another reason not to give it to this person just because he pissed me off. In reality, he did do many things beyond the Call of Duty. So I have to give this to Mr. Jonathan Reagan. Don't ever do that again. For the most improved award, goes to a very deserving person, Stephen Bloch.
Way to go.
Best Table Topics Award. Oh, geez, Here we go again. Mr. Jonathan Dunn.
Redemption.
When you got it, right?
Oh, no, please. Best Evaluator Award, Jonathan Dunn.
Just stay out there.
Stay there,
This is why I need voter ID.
Best Speaker Award, Jonathan Dunn. Wait, no. Mark Lockery. Please, one last time, in a serious note, we need to have people run for officer, and we've got to start next week, because we have to have a vote by the end of this week, this month, right?
Supposed to, but it often goes into June.
But we're going to try to make it towards the end of May, so please, please, please consider running for office. With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.